gamers, I'm Jason.
I'm Julie.
And today on Dice and Dragons, we have a Kickstarter preview for you. This is Taelmoor, published by the Delv Bros, Willem and Zac Delventhal, who are also the designers of the game. Now Julie's going to tell you a little bit more about the game itself.
So this is a cooperative app-driven game that is intended for ages 14 and above. It plays 1 to 6 players, and it plays in about 60 to 90 minutes.
We are currently playing the print and play version of the game. I just want to say a big thanks to the Delv Bros for getting us a higher quality print and play version of the game since they couldn't send us the preview copy. We do also have the Dwarf and Elf expansion, which was not included in other people's copies. So that's what we decided to play when we were testing out the game. And just remember, even though this is a preview copy from the Delv Bros, our opinions are our own.
As always.
Yes. So Julie, why don't you change this up a little bit and you tell people what they will be doing in the game.
Well, they are adventurers that are looking basically for different clues to be able to complete your quest. It's a little bit like a dungeon crawl, I would say.
Yeah, it definitely has some dungeon crawl elements, but the exploration quotient is very high in this game. Now, in Taelmoor, you cannot die if you happen to
I didn't know that.
If you happen to fail a challenge, you will have to restart, which may or may not be for you, but I think the aspect of, Tael is in the name. This is really about going on an adventure and experiencing it. Players will be adventurers that have been summoned together and will start going on an epic quest. We'll talk a lot more about the game in the review. I think we've talked enough about it for right now. Am I missing anything at all, Julie?
Well, we're going to talk more. I think we said it's an app-driven game, and we'll get more into that in the review, but you're definitely using an app to be able to do this game.
Yes. There is currently a web-based app. There will be iOS and Android versions. The web-based is the only one available, so that's what we use. And gotta say, just a little bit of a spoiler, it worked really well. I was quite happy with it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so what time is it?
Time to grab our drinks.
Grab our best friend.
We're going to take it to the table one more time.
One more time. We started the tutorial. Let's get into this game. Now we're going to take you through a gameplay overview of Taelmoor. So in this case, we've picked out our 2 characters already, the elf and the dwarf. We've got their combat cards. This is a print and play version. That's why the back of these cards are white. And while we're not doing a look at the components or a full how to play. The component quality for us just with the print and play isn't quite what we wanted. Each character will start with 5 combat cards. You can see on the card the damage, the location, the speed of the attack, where they will attack. You can use this code here, G2, to enter it into the app or scan the QR code, and down below it tells you what the attack actually does. So each character, the dwarf and the elf, will start with their 5 cards. You also do have some advanced abilities that will become available to you as you get into combat situations and you level up. We've got our party's inventory and we're ready to get started. So the first thing that you do is you go to tlm.gg. That's the web-based app for the game. You have to do it in Safari. You'll pick the scenario, and I got a little bit ahead of myself. I left out A5, which I know is the starting tile for the scenario. You get a nice introduction to Taelmoor, how to use it. All of these blue links will take you to a lot of background lore on the world, which the Delv Bros have spent a lot of time on. Sorry, I mumbled that out a little bit there. So we've got our game. We can even share this with another device so that other players can join on their own devices and not have to share a single one. So if you're playing a 6-player game, you can use 3 phones, for example. So you can scan a class, and we'll just pick up the elf and do it. As you can see, the QR codes work very well. So that lets us add the elf. We also have the option of typing in the letters. So the dwarf is C3. So let's just try typing it in to show you how it works. All right, so we've got the elf and the dwarf in. We go to begin the game. We get some nice backstory about the characters. We're trying to join the mercenary band, the shattered band. So your uncanny ability, and this is a private message only for the elf. So the elf starts with item JQ. Now these can be folded because they're from the print and play, but I like to keep them just readily visible, easier to scan the QR codes. So you get to add the divining key JQ, which is pretty cool. And that's what you start with. We can close the message. You get the dwarf's backstory. So we've got the lockpicks. So the dwarf gets the lockpicks. So if you ever want to break anything, I can interact because I'm strong. So use the action, use item lockpicks if you want to open a door. So that's pretty neat. As we said, the app will assign the items to specific characters based on who you have in the game. So as it tells us to place A5, and then we can tap A5 to inspect it. So let's go ahead. We go to inspect, and I'm just going to type in A5. It's just a little easier than scanning everything. So in the entryway stands Elder Mink, EC. So this is an example of the standees. Like I said, this is a print and play, so we can engage with them if we want. So there is a barrel J8 that is here in the room, so we'll put that there. Then we have the door D1, which I'm just going to put anywhere. There's really no specifics. It's just so that you know what you're doing. So if we want to, we can interact with Elder Mink. So interact with EC. As you can see, we get a nice conversation. So we can ask him about different things. So we can ask him about, just say the locked door, see if he wants to tell us anything. Doesn't want to tell us much. We can ask him about the barrel as well. So we can just end the dialogue. That's just to give you an example as to how the conversation works. So it's still the dwarf's turn. So let's interact with the barrel. So, smash the barrel and then we'll gain an item. You can, keep everything in your party's inventory, as I haven't bent the QR codes. I just typically put them like that in there for the moment. So we've got JX, so we've added to the inventory. And we're going to want to use an item, K6, because that door is probably locked. And we've already gone through this scenario, so I'm getting ahead of myself. So actually, you know what? We're going to inspect D1 first. Oh, I hit D7. So if you do make a mistake, actually, that works. It tells you that D7 is not actually a part of the scenario. So yes, we can inspect D1. It's locked, so that's difficult. We can try using K6, but I believe in this scenario, only the dwarf can use it. So we can try using the lockpicks on D1. So there you go. We're able to open the door. So then we have to place A6. So what you then do is you take one of these things, find the next room, which is A6, and you'll place it there. As we're really working on like just keeping everything nice and tight. We really don't need any of these components anymore. So you place Elder Mink in A6. Now, the game also comes with a party marker. For the case of endpoint, for this time, we're going to use this the slime. We know it doesn't come into play. So what we then have to do to get to A6, we got to hit move 2. You might not have seen it, move 2. Then we hit A6. And it takes us into the darkened parlor and gives us a nice little overview. Then what happens here? Well, we get some combat. And this is the last thing that we're going to take a look. So we scan a combat card for the elf. So let's say we want to shoot. We can see a little bit what the enemies are doing here. We can scan the card. As you can see, scans very well. So we confirm. We can scan a combat card for the dwarf. We'll scan the hammer. Confirm. And then we get a round 1. Get the scene animation as to who we're attacking. So the round is finished. At this point, shoot and hammer have been used. The players will draw new cards from their deck. Now, we've taken some damage, so maybe you want to go and use defensive abilities. So the dwarf's got block, but ideally you want to help the elf. So we're going to choose intercept to make someone attack us. And then, let's see what we've got here. We've got the snipe ability for the elf, which we'll use. And you want to be more strategic, but I'm really just trying to give you an idea as to how the game plays. Well, you know what? I think I scanned them out of order there, so be careful with what you do. You saw that the elf ended up taunting, so that was my mistake. So as you can see at the bottom there, scan a combat card for the specific character. And if you're wondering, yes, I did back Miss Thea since we got that notification. So we'll once again draw combat cards and the round will continue. Let's try to do one last round of combat. So we've got shield wall, which we're going to use for the dwarf. We've got another shot for the elf, so we'll choose the elf's combat card. We'll take this one. We want to defend our party a little bit, so we'll scan, shield wall, go from there. I want to just try to defeat at least one of these guys. Seeing that hit his armor, and oof, the elf was defeated. So combat's going to continue, and you can't die in the game. Now, I did have some other options for the elves, things that I didn't do, such as the oaken skin ability, which would have really helped out. So we'll do one last thing for the dwarf here, see if we can defeat one of these guys. So we'll try the hammer, and as I said, I'm really not playing all that strategically. There you go, I defeated one of them. So combat's just going to continue between the two of us back and forth, and if the dwarf wins, then we will have successfully completed this objective, and we will gain some awesome stuff. So you know what? I want to just go through how leveling up works. So I'm going to do this really quick. I shouldn't be using the hammer again, but I'm just going to keep using it until he dies. I think I can out-damage him. Now, don't do what I'm doing. You really should be drawing from your deck. I'm literally just trying to get through this as quickly as possible to show you the leveling up aspect of Taelmoor. Wish you wouldn't keep armoring up here. It just makes things a little tedious. But it also goes to show you, there you go. So we won. So when you get to level up, you upgrade a basic combat card by replacing it with an advanced one. So as you saw earlier, we would take an advanced card that we like. So I like this one. Oh, one of the cards decided to go flying. I like this one all out. I could replace it with block, and just put it in there. And then for the elf, power shot does a lot of damage. That's pretty cool. So we don't want oaken skin. We like living on the edge. We can replace that into our decks. Now, you'll only reshuffle your decks once you've gone through them. And there you have it. It's our gameplay overview for Taelmoor. You get an idea as to what's going on. And we'll just click going on through the app here. And you'll get a little bit more details as to what's going on and the next thing that you need to do in the game. So keep it right here as Julie and I are going to come back at you with our thoughts on the game. Now, we were going to do a more deep dive review of the game, however, with only 2 scenarios available, and as we mentioned in the intro, we do have access to some different content than other reviewers. We decided to really focus on that and make this more of a preview. We're really only just scratching the surface of Taelmoor, and that being said, we do have a very good idea what the game's going to play like, and you'll get that across for a while. We'll get it across to you in our opinions, but I don't think either of us are really confident enough to give it a final score with what we've gotten played so far.
No, with the tutorial and one campaign, I think it gives us a good idea. We can definitely talk about it, but I don't think it's fair to give it a rating.
Yes. So, Taelmoor, what did you think of this game so far?
Well, I enjoyed the fact that I got to play an elf. That was pretty cool.
She always likes elves.
Well, yeah, but I was an elf that can do magic, although she's a reluctant magic player. And she can read runes, and she can use runes.
Runes are found in ruins.
Okay. And she's a locksmith.
Not a locksmith. She had the lockpick. Actually, that's an interesting element of the game because I don't think that was actually specific to your character. That's something that is decided by the app, and I think it actually worked pretty well. So I played the dwarf, you were the elf. And in the first mission, someone had to have incredible jumping skills, and someone needed to be
a lockpick.
Lockpick, the roguelike character. As you were the elf, the more agile one, the app assigned you the lockpick. I'm sure if I was a rogue, that would have ended up going to me. But me being the dwarf, I got the jumping ability, which I'm sure would have went to another character if they were more suited to that task.
Well, an elf could be an incredible jumper as well.
It could have gone to the elf if I was the rogue. We don't know. I'm just saying I really like the way the app takes the elements that are needed into the mission and assigns it to the player that makes the most thematic sense without penalizing you and making you play a specific class. I just think that's cool.
So this is definitely a very app-heavy game. The good news is the app works very well.
And I think we want to say, if you don't like app-driven games, if Descent 2nd Edition was too much for you, you don't want to play Taelmoor. If Journeys in Middle-earth was too much for you, you don't want to play Taelmoor. Because you will be using the app even more so than in those games. I would say that this app experience is a lot more like Chronicles of Crime. Yeah. Where you've got some really nice physical components. You'll be able to engage with things and move things around. But the meat of the game is in the app.
Yeah, there's a lot of backstory to this too. The brothers did a great job at putting a lot of backstory and a lot of scenarios together for this.
The lore is very well developed. As Julie mentioned, they spent a lot of time. It's easily accessible. It definitely feels a lot like a video game. Me being the Dragon Age and Mass Effect fan, whenever something would pop up, I'd want to dive into the lore. And I was doing that with Taelmoor, which is a good and also, I'd say, a bad thing. I don't know if it will be available like offline in a separate version of the app so you can read it after your mission. Because if everyone's reading the backstory could really bog things down. Now, in a 6-player game, you may actually have the time to read all the backstory before it comes around to your turn again. So it can work, but it's a positive, but it does have some implications in terms of gameplay and time.
Yeah, so for me, it was a little bit of a negative when it came to the gameplay because I didn't feel like I was really playing a game with you. We spent most of our time...
You mean the app? Because we were talking about the lore, so it wasn't the lore.
The app itself. Just because it's, I just felt like I wasn't playing with you. I was reading stuff happening on my screen, and there wasn't a lot of interaction really. Other games, like you mentioned, Lord of the Rings, we really had to talk a lot more and coordinate because we each got to do our own thing and go off different places. In this game, it's a one-party location, so wherever one player decides to go, you bring everybody else.
Yeah, and well, that worked well in Chronicles of Crime, I would say. I do agree with you. It's a little bit of a detriment to Taelmoor, because in Chronicles of Crime, you need to talk, you need to figure things out. We're looking at the same things, and it's all about problem solving. While you do need to do a bit of this in Taelmoor, the actions that you're taking are far more individualistic, even though everyone is in the same place. Now, the app works very well in terms of scanning the QR codes and letting you move around the map, and things move very quickly and at a snappy pace when you're playing just 2 players. So that's one thing that we both really appreciated. However, the fact that we were using 2 devices meant that it did, you were kind of on your own device, I was on my device, so it definitely kind of put up a wall between the 2 of us while we're playing the game. That being said, however, we did find it to be a little bit of a negative in terms of us playing together, but the way that it works, someone opens a game, you send the other players a link to the game, and then they can join it on their phone using the web-based app. I'm hoping a similar feature is still available in the final iOS and Android versions, because this opens up a whole world of awesome remote play options. Because if you've got a copy of if everyone has a copy of the game, well, guess what? You join the same game and you can just set it up and play at your house. Your friend can be playing at their house, miles away, and all you're doing is, you have like an iPad or another device just to do the video chat. No trying to show the board, none of that, because basically as you play the game, the app's going to tell you where to place your components, so very easy to play together.
And it also tells you what the other person has done and what's happened to them. So basically, there's no, that was, it's a positive and a negative. It's positive if you're playing remotely because you know everything that's happening. It's a negative I felt when we were playing because we didn't even have to talk. I could just read what you were doing and what was happening. And then when it was your turn, it would say it's your turn. And when it was no longer my turn, it would say it's the dwarf's turn.
We probably could have mitigated that a little bit by using one device, but I think we really got a good perspective using multiple devices, especially if you're going to be playing this at a higher player count. You're not going to want to do this with only one phone. You want to have, 2 phones, maybe 3 phones, depending on the amount of players.
Yeah. So, I'm sure there's people that have widely differing opinions of combat, but I like certain aspects of the combat. I thought, it felt like I was playing an Atari game.
Not Atari, that's like Super Nintendo or NES. The person going forward and going like attack, attack, attack. And I made that specific motion for Final Fantasy, 4 fans or 2 fans, depending on what system you're following. It captures that feel perfectly. We listened to What You've Been Playing Wednesdays, and the Meeple Dungeon said it has the Final Fantasy feel. And I gotta agree with Rob from Meeple Dungeon. It absolutely does. It brings me back to playing those old video games. So I really like that.
Yes, I thought it was retro in a good way. It was the really easy combat. I find that it's not too difficult to beat. But like you said, I didn't realize we couldn't die. But it felt very easy with the cards.
We're only at the beginning of the game, though.
So that's it. So maybe the combat gets a lot harder. Like we said, we only played the tutorial plus 1 campaign.
Yes, and what I do like a lot about the combat is you do see what the enemies are going to do, so you can plan your response accordingly. That's something that really didn't come up in the first 2 missions of the game, but I do see where they are going with complexity of combat and how it can be quite intriguing and also a lot of fun. As I said, the reason why you can't die is so that you'll keep going on the story. I mean, how many times in a game have we been like really close to dying, or those people that have played lots of cooperative games and you get that one die roll and you're about to win the scenario and you just kind of walk it back because you'd rather win instead of replaying the scenario for 3 hours? I mean, that definitely does happen. If you die early on like we do, or you die from, midway through a mission, you're obviously going to restart. But when you're right at the end, well, it's really annoying to go through all of that. So I do like the fact that Taelmoor takes that into account. And if you play badly, don't worry about it. You're going to get to restart because it's all about experiencing the game and the story and the world that the Delve Bros have created.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really think I've got that much more to add. We talked a lot about the combat. We mentioned that the QR codes work really well. Oh, the art. What did you think of the art for the game?
I thought it was pretty good. I enjoyed it. I thought it's very much in my the vein of what I like. It's realistic, but it's colorful and it's pretty.
I have to say, I wasn't sure about the art, but after seeing the video game-esque combat that you get and the way things are going to be working with the app, I feel it's incredibly thematic. It's very colorful, as Julie says. I really like it. And I like the fact that this game actually is standees versus miniatures. The fact that everything's got a QR code. I think the standees actually work fairly well.
Well, I also like, as a person with short arms, and we've got a huge table here, I like the option also that you don't actually have to scan. You can just enter the code as well. You can enter a two-digit code, and you don't actually have to scan the QR code. So that second option was nice too.
Yeah, I have to say, so that's Taelmoor. We don't really have anything more to add. If you are not an app-driven gamer, this is not for you. If you do like app-driven games, you like story-driven games, you like cooperative games, I think there's a lot that you can enjoy here. Also, if you got friends of yours that love to play these games but are scattered all over the place, this is the perfect game for you because it will be very easy for you to get together and get it to the table. I'm interested in seeing how this campaign is going to go and actually getting this back to the table, hopefully in the future, and we get to try some more of the elements. Oh, we should add one last thing before we end everything. I like the dwarf. I thought the character was pretty cool. He hits hard, and his armor abilities are really neat, especially the fact that he can buff the entire team and also play the tanky character. What did you think of the elf?
I think she's pretty cute. Pretty good. Because,
Cute?
No, she's pretty good because she can snipe.
Yes. She hits very hard, and Julie likes her long-range characters that hit hard or her up-close and personal characters that hit hard. You'll see there's one thing in common in both of those statements.
Yes.
So there you have it. Taelmoor, those are our thoughts on this Kickstarter. You can take a look down below in the video description. You can find a link to the Kickstarter. Definitely check it out. I think you'll find something interesting there. And also down below in the video description, we have our link to multizone.ca, doing this a little bit out of order, but you're already taking a look down there. So if you're looking to pick up a game and also support the channel, click that link, get 10% off your next purchase there. They're a great Canadian game store, and a portion of that purchase will be returned to us, so you will be supporting the channel at the same time.
And now I'm going to remind you to like, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell to be notified when we have some new content for you. Popping up in front of Jason will be a link to a most recent video, and popping up in front of me will be a link to
another cooperative dungeon crawler. We'll find something that is thematic with Taelmoor. I'm trying to think of what would be colorful enough, but...
Well, we talked about Lord of the Rings enough. Why don't you put that one?
Okay, we'll put Lord of the Rings, and don't forget to hit the notification bell so that YouTube will let you know when our next video is released. So what time is it?
It's time to remind everybody to keep playing.
Yep.
Well, we can drink our fine. That's right.
You're getting ahead of yourself here.
Well, you threw me off.
So we grabbed our drink.
And now we're going to
grabbed our best friend. And now we will remind everyone to, she's still trying to rush to the end. I mean, change is good, but apparently not when we end the video. 2, keep playing games. She's done, folks. Done. Good night. Good night, everyone.